Okay, I will try to record. I'm not sure that I'm going to post it. Just just let's try. Let's see. I'm still hope that someone is watching our videos and someone can join us eventually. In 20 years maybe. So today we are starting like a new idea, new. It's not very new, but let's.
Yeah, we started with that.
Yeah. But I think that at this how to call it season, at this season, let's don't narrow all the sources to TED Talks. So anything is good. YouTube, book, any short clip, whenever you want to discuss, whenever you think we can have questions about, and please bring it, and we will try to find some new vocabulary and some practice. So today I've chosen a short clip. Actually, it's not a TED talk. It's some, I don't know, a few phrases I would say from a TED talk, and it's about language, how language form our perception of life. I think we can try to retell the story, retell the idea, and then answer some questions. We have questions on our Padlet. So, Vasant, could you please start with the story itself, with the idea?
Yes, this speaker is talking about the linguistic uh, differences that we have. Um, for example, the language it teaches us how to uh, enlarge our let's say that let's say that or ability or something like that. Like if someone asks you to count something, then you would quickly count because your language taught you to memorize a list of numbers, so that's why you can do that. So that she mentions such a uh, linguistic advancements we have. And she also mentioned her experience with an Australian tribe uh, and their practice, how they differs from us. Uh, Usually we ask hello. We say hello to anybody we meet, but they say like which way you are headed. So this is how we are. Every language has its own weird way of expressing uh, and so many advances. So that's what this speaker was mentioning.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it must be weird, but it's probably specific. Yeah, we can find a few specific
Yeah.
cases in every language. And yes, and she provided an interesting example about the tribe in, I forgot where, in Australia. They don't use left and right, and they use just how we call it, north, east, west.
Cardinal points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen that in American movies, people always use that. So where he is on the north, it's confused me extremely. I wouldn't. I never know where the north is. If you tell me just go to the north 2 kilometers, then rotate to the west, and I will lose. That's for sure. Jacques, could you understand this direction?
Yes, when another way is like which word, that 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, another
Yeah.
way is to tell the right directions.
Teacher Lee left a comment in our Padlet about military talking in Russia. So in Russian language. So I'm not sure that we have that, but it's sometimes it's hard to understand when you are inside. But in Russia, no one speak like on 6 o'clock. No, it's only for military pilots. Maybe they use that, but not normal people.
I think what it was talking about was your idioms and some of your expressions tend to be kind of a military type uh, context. I don't know if that's true or not. I just read it one time.
I think it could be true to some extent if we narrow it to some games for boys. So boys in Russia they like to play it into some war games, and they want to use some some adult expression, some military expression, and sometimes it go to our language. But I think it's the same like in English. You can say lock and load, for instance. It's kind of military, yes.
Right, but I think your history, and you've had a lot of conflict, a lot of battles and invasions in your history. So it might make sense that some of your cultural expressions deal with invasion and expelling the invaders and that kind of a mindset. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, I can totally agree with that. So in general, in every family, you will have a guy who protected the country. So he was on military service and probably used some jargon or slang from military. So it can,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it can influence our language in general. Yeah, sometimes.
Understood. Yeah.
Sometimes my grandfather, if he wanted to be strict with me. He used just military words, right? Yes, and it's like in English when you use full name. My grandfather
Yeah.
uses the same, and I started to listen. Wow, something is going to happen. Better to listen.
Do you want to face a firing squad tomorrow?
Not like that, I would say. Yeah. So, what was another example? I forgot. Another example was about genders, no? Gerard, your favorite topic?
Yeah, what about, in some languages, the different words have a masculine or feminine gender, like in Spanish and other Romance languages.
Yeah.
And Germanic, like German, they also have masculine and feminine.
In
So,
Russian, we have that more complicated. We have feminine, masculine, and neutral. for every noun, yeah, you can choose.
So the example here is the sun in German is feminine and the moon is masculine, and the other way around is in Spanish. In Spanish, the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine.
Yeah, but I don't know what native English speaker thinks about that. But as a native speaker of language, which use this, gender things, I know that it means nothing. It's just grammar, We don't think that, that moon has something common with females. No, it's just because the last vowel is like this, we call it feminine. That's all. We would call it like not genders. We would call like.
Well, in some languages.
Yes, please. Usually we lost.
In some languages, things have gender. Like bridge might be masculine or feminine. In English, it's not. In English, it's neutral. But if, let's say, your language, bridge is masculine, and someone else's language, bridge is feminine, her point was that if you consider bridge masculine, you're going to describe the bridge as strong or sturdy. But if you look at the bridge as feminine, you might describe it as beautiful or elegant. So your language might alter how you describe things based on your gender assignment.
I can understand this. Yeah. So you subconsciously you just tend to use male adjectives. Yeah. Yeah, we have a big latency. Please.
In some cases in English, like country, country has no gender in English, but we think of our country as she, our motherland.
Yeah.
In Germany, they think of the country as he, the fatherland. But the word country itself has no gender, so that's a cultural thing. But in some languages, country has a gender. In English, it does not.
Yeah. Vasant, please. Sorry, I lost your message in chat.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. In my language, we have masculine and feminine genders only applicable to male and female, and everything else is neutral. Like whether it's a cat or whether it's a dog, we just say it or they. We define like that. So so this one is a little surprising for me when they describe a bridge as a feminine gender or a masculine gender, because it does exist in my language, but in rare cases when a poet expresses uh, how to say that, his imagination about something. When he expresses something about a cat, then he would say she's jumping from the wall, adding some posh vocabularies to the poem, or something like that. So it's very rare case, but in common language, we do not use that. We just keep it as neutral.
Understand? Gerard, please.
In Spanish, we have the word the sea. It can be either masculine or feminine. And it changes the point of view. If it's feminine, means something more closer, more endearing, you know, more beautiful, and masculine is something more objective.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm correct or not, but my Spanish teacher always correct me when I use feminine article. She says it's for poems. You know, if you write poem, use feminine. If you just speaking about sea, use masculine.
Okay, yes, it's something like this, yes.
Yeah, so it's like you know, imposing some ideas in that. Yeah, and it's exactly the point of the TED talk, I think. Yes, it's we like just because of the language, we have like different ideas about things, about I don't know, actions, about something else. Well, I think we described this TED talk more or less. Yeah. So we already covered the first question, but let me just copy it to ask. So if you ask me, I never know where is the north, but I've seen many times in the American movies how they give direction in his way. So how they master it this way? Teacher, how?
One way is sun position. If it's morning, the sun's in the east, so to the left is going to be north. Sometimes it's just local environment. You know, you might know that this mountain is to the north, so that might become a reference point. You know, so it depends. Different ways to do it.
So you not implant, you know, these magnets in your head. No? because some birds, I read an article that some
for example, in Florida, I'm on the west coast, so the ocean direction is west. Mm-hmm. So if I'm on the beach, I know immediately then when I look to the ocean, I'm looking west. Mm-hmm. So it depends on your locale, on your local environment, landmarks, things like that, you know.
Yep, I can see. Gerard?
One reason why those guys, the Australian Aborigines, think like this, because they live in open spaces. They don't live inside buildings, you know. So it's easy if you are outside to know the sun, and the direction is much easier. And always there is a lot of sun over there. So you know the time of the day and the sun, it's easy to say the cardinal point.
Yeah, I can understand it. Yeah. But you know, some birds, they have a special like sense of the north in their back or beak. How we call this? You know, this mouth of the bird. Beak. Okay. So they have like a special sense. They always knew where is the north. They do. I would like to have such implant.
And you can have your smartphone. It does a
Yeah,
compass.
yeah, but it's long, you know. Okay, another question. What is the one factor that differentiates your language from the rest? Share with us, please. Vasant, you probably already thought about this question. So, do you have this answer?
Oh, yes. Usually, I can differentiate with my language from English, especially because we have each letter for every sound we can possibly make. Like English has only 26 alphabets, and if you say la, then you have to add L plus A. So two alphabets you need to add. But here we have a separate letter. So I think we have 450 plus letter alphabets in my language only. For each sound, you have a letter. So I think that will be an interesting fact for you. Yeah.
Yeah. But your characters, they always like circles. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It looks like a delicious sweet. Also,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know is it correct way or not. Once I read an article and it says, you know, in Egypt they used like clay and stick, so that's why they have straight lines. But in your place it was leaves of the palms of something, so everything is circle.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You noticed it very perfectly. But I think in ancient times, people used to uh, draw letters on sands and especially rice. I think when
Mhm.
they name somebody a newborn baby, there is a ceremony many years ago when a newborn baby they have to name him, and it's like a ceremony. They used to keep uh, a rice on floor, and they start writing his name for the first time on the rice. It's a good practice. I think that's how they started learning writing the letters. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So speaking of Russian, I think that there is nothing so much, you know, distinguishable, because we have like a Slavic language. There are a lot of Slavic languages like Ukrainian, Czech, and Yugoslavian, many of them, and they kind of common. So we have the same elements, the same grammar. So sounds a little bit different. But what is definitely weird in Russian? It's a stress system. So stress system is overcomplicated. So there is no logic. You just have to memorize every word. So and it's probably a big difference from other languages. Yes, and we are very demanding to this rule. So we can distinguish foreigner, you know, in no time just because of stress in the words. Yes, Gerard, please.
So in English, we don't have, masculine or feminine gender article. I mean,
Yep.
in Spanish, for instance, you are talking about a friend, you can know whether it's a male or female, but not in English.
Yes.
It has to appear something that tells you the clue, you know?
Yeah.
And many words happen.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? A male or a female?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So you have, but you have also plural articles, right?
Yes.
For plural forms. Yeah, they don't exist in English as well. Yeah. Okay. Teach me how we can distinguish English immediately from
Ivan,
Yes. Please.
if you're just listening to English, I don't know, because to me it sounds normal. Now, I was going to say, when Russians speak English, what we notice from your accent is you use a lot of strong, what we call hard consonants. You use k and g and off, and your sounds are very they cut the air off. They're very strong consonants. You know,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You know, because your language is like, Smirnoff and Vladivostok. You have a lot of K sounds and g hard sounds. We notice that when a Russian speaks English, we can tell from those hard consonants that you're Russian.
And also we like rolling the R.
Yeah. Yeah, Spanish. Yeah, Spanish has that too.
Yeah, sounds are different.
We don't
yeah.
have that in English.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, I think we covered this. The next question is very interesting. I never thought about it before, so thank you, Vasant. So, do you have difficulties with your own language? Is it pronunciation of writing or anything else? Teacher Lee, can you tell us, do you have any difficulties with English?
Say again?
I posted a question into the chat, but yeah. Do you have any difficulties with
Well,
English?
not really. It depends on what you mean. I mean, everyone can, all Americans can speak English. Some have accents. We pronounce words a little different from region to region, but we can all understand each other. The only thing unique or weird about English is there are a lot of grammar rules. Do not have good grammar. So, you know,
Yeah, I understand.
grammar is the main thing that might vary considerably. Yeah.
Gerard, please.
So compared to Spanish, what is difficult is the words. We must know the words the way are written, because there are a lot of silent letters.
Yeah, I understand. And also, I have some opinion about Spanish. Some grammar rules in Spanish, they're not so easy to understand. They have a new concept like ser and estar. So they have temporary to be and like permanent to be. So I'm tired, it's permanent, and the house is red is like persistent. So two different verbs. It's one, and then they have a few past forms. They are like estuvo and estaba, And when I ask my Spanish friends about that, why it must be so complicated, they always say, "Don't worry, Spaniards are bad in that as well." I don't know, is it true or not?
Well, Levon, it's like you and your national Russian language test.
Yes.
Your national language test where people can participate. You're saying that sometimes it's very difficult to know what the speaker is saying as far as certain words or sounds because the written is different than the spoken or something like that.
Sometimes it's very hard to make right punctuation, for instance, because it's a lot of grammar about that. Sometimes we don't know how to write it, yes. But in general, in Russia, we like impose our language. We are all grammar nuts. It's for sure. Gerard, please.
Another thing in Spanish,
so that's good.
When you read a word, you can know whether it's the stress, the syllable, a stress syllable.
Yes.
Because we use accent marks, and if they are not accent marks, there are some laws, some rules, easy rules, and you can know how to pronounce. So in English, you need to know, and especially in English, that it's very important, the stress syllable. Otherwise, an Indian speaker may not understand you.
Yes, it's a very convenient for a learner of Spanish. It's a very convenient. Either there is a rule or it will be exactly marked. So yeah, we have that in Russian books for children. In Russian books, for children we use accent marks, but not for adults. They like adapt. Okay, Vasant, tell us what is your difficulties.
Yes, there is a letter L. We have three kind of alphabets for the single sound L. So if it's about the pronunciation. Think about this is your roof of your mouth and this is your tongue. So this is you have to touch this here for first L, la, and this is the middle la, and there's a hard one like this la. So people still struggles to differentiate while they are speaking, because when they speak, they think about the fluency. They do not think about the pronunciation, like flipping their tongue. So they can fluently speak. Like everything is like touching the tip of the roof, but it's really hard to touch this one. That's really hard.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point about fluency with, like correctness. So, for instance, in Asia, they have a lot of tonal languages like Vietnamese or Chinese. And when you are learn this, you trying to like pronounce all these tones correctly, like ma, ma, and all these things. But when they speak fast, when they fluent, they don't care. They use tones only when it's necessary, when it's changed the meaning. So otherwise, they don't care too much. Yeah. Am I correct, teacher Lee, about what do you think?
Some languages like Chinese, Vietnamese, I think maybe, the sound of the word or the tone of the word ma 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 actually changes the meaning. But in English, that sound is our emotion, not the meaning. So it's languages are different. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Okay. Let's answer another question. It's mine question. So I'm trying to be funny there, so don't take it very serious. Do you think if English had masculine and feminine nouns from the beginning, it would prevent the trend of creating feminitives, even if they are not needed? And feminitives, I mean, all this driverette and policewoman and fire person or something.
Yeah, it didn't used to be an issue, but now it's a big issue.
Yeah.
In Spanish, we have some extreme. There is a word that composed word that the second word is feminine actually, but they want to make more feminine, adding a vowel, an a vowel, than it's used in feminine words. So even so, the word is feminine. Feminists want to make it more feminine.
That's odd.
Incredible.
Give us an example, please.
It's in Spanish the word portavoz.
Uh-huh.
The feminists will say portavoza. So both is voice, means voice.
Mm-hmm.
Porta means bring, so it's the speaker. So they add the vowel at the end, so make it more feminine. But both is actually a feminine word.
Yeah.
So look, it's crazy.
Yeah, but it's exactly like our favorite driverette or something. When driver is kind of male, and in English they want to have like feminative. So it will be driverette or something, police, women, or I don't know what else. But it seems like we don't have this problem because we had all these genders from the beginning. So we have a lot of words feminine and no one cares. Yeah, so I think that's the reason.
I think the key is the equality in society. If the society is equal, the words don't matter. But when someone envisions society to be unequal, the words become more important.
It's a very valuable point, I think. Yeah, if you cannot reach, some equality in other ways, you try to impose it in language. Yeah? At least you should not say how we say it? You should not assume my gender, by meeting me.
Right.
Vasant, any comments on this, picky points?
In my language, we do not have such masculine and feminine point of views when it comes to representing the profession. Very few professions have such differences, but we can only understand like when you introduce a profession, the first line doesn't matter. When they continue with he or she, that's where you can understand whether it's a feminine or a masculine. So yeah, this is my question.
Just today I read an article. It's kind of interesting. Let's think about it a bit. So it was like a research. People asked it in college. So interview asked just students to name a few famous scientists, and usually students name it like male scientists because we use like scientists like a male form or something. It was I don't know, is it correct conclusion or not. So then they tried to like rephrase the question and they asked it, can you please name a few scientists, male or female? And students start to recall some females as well, you know. So it's kind of a way, you know, it's like a gist of TED Talk, a way how language impose our ideas. Yes. So language can introduce biases. Yes, bias. Yeah, I think.
What about the example in the video about the blue color in Russian, that you had a word for a dark blue and bright blue?
Yes, we have two different words, but it's not unique for Russians. In Japan, they have a lot of words for black. They have like three different blacks. No one else sees the difference, you know, but they do. But yes, for some, please.
Yeah, we do not have that much words for colors, but we try to implicate by saying a product or a thing that is in that color, like a rose or a blue color flower, then we name it that flower's color, like that. So we do not have an exact color's name, but the representative product or representative things to mention that. Yeah.
Well, I think it could be interesting, but you know, sometimes when you know a lot of names for colors, it's kind of a feminine language in Russian, you know. So for men, it's all simple: black, red, green. It's enough. You know, you don't have to know other names. But if you know a female, a ma'am, you know, you use violet and something else and salad green and well, I don't know, some like 100 colors. It's a stereotype here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see in our chat, teacher Lee knows a lot of them. Mouth, beige, egg yolk, yellow, well.
School bus orange.
Okay. Do you know the RGB? You know, red, green, blue. It's a kind of encoding in IT how we code our colors. You know, so in our eyes we have only three. How we call it actually? Perceptions.
Primary colors.
Primary colors, yeah, and all the rest just combined from that. So we just code that in IT by numbers, you know, so much red, so much blue, and so much green. If it's school bus orange after all, I don't care. It's Gerard, please.
I think in printing the three primary colors are blue cyan, I think yellow lemon, no? And magenta.
It's a different coding system. So what you're talking about, it's for printers because they yes, for printers because they like have a system which mix colors in that way. But initially RGB is created because of nature, because of human eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these three like principal main colors, like sensors in our eyes. Yeah, we can see only these three. So black means it's the zero for everyone. If it's white, it means, you know, they are equally bright, all three of them.
Yeah.
Modern research tell us that it's not really correct. That we can see we have sensor for different colors as well, but it's not, you know, it's not like it's still rocket science. Okay, I think we if you say green, people would ask which one, green or parrot green. Well, I never heard that for some. Probably my wife will ask me about some salad green or something like this, but not me.
Lime green is more bright. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we use poison green, you know, some green that you want to shut your eyes. So bright.
Yeah.
We call it toxic green.
Toxic. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes we have puke green. Oh, nasty. Yeah.
Well, yes, I think we can use a lot of things. Yeah. Okay, another another question. Do you have any interesting or weird way of expressing a feeling in your language? Interesting question. Vasant, please
Yeah,
start.
I would warm you up. Usually, in my culture, if someone is angry at you, if someone is like frustrated, or just imagine you just fooled them or you just deceived them, you just total their money, then they would just grab some sand from the floor, and they would uh, just throw like this in front of you and say, I curse you, you will go to hell, like that. So people used to believe that such curses will affect in their future, and they will end up in hell, or the rest of the life might be in trouble. So it used to be, but people doesn't care anymore. They do a lot of crimes. They don't care now.
Yeah. So which can jinx you? Am I use it correctly? Usually jinx, or how we call it? When
Jinx.
yeah. So a witch can put some magic on you, and you will be, I don't know, something wrong
Yeah.
with you will be for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Cursed, jinxed.
Jinxed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We call it the evil eye. The evil eye.
And I think that when we are angry with someone, we have very nasty ways to say go away in all the languages. Very nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not always about rudeness. Sometimes it's about politeness. For instance, in Russia we don't use please word because we don't need it. We have a polite mechanism in our grammar. Yeah, so I just can like rephrase the whole sentence to put it in a polite way without using please or something else. So in English it could be like, could you do something, rather than do something. Yeah. So we
Right.
the same. Yeah. That's why Russians always forget these please things, and English native speakers think what's wrong with them? Why they use this? Yeah. So if you literally translate, you speak incorrect English. For instance, I have seen that many times. Like in airplane, a Russian guy can say like sit down. It sounds like an order. Sounds rude.
Yeah.
Sure.
What about profanity in Russian? Is it as forbidden as in America? The beeps in television. Do you do that in Russia?
Well, before television, I will tell how it's in society. In society, 10 years ago, you could not use any profanity in a company with females. But now it's okay. Now you can use it, but you can't use if they are children, small children. So otherwise, it's people like it. People always use it when they can. On TV, on TV we have this beep sound, but only on some shows that are explicitly marketed like illegally for children. So if it's not explicitly marketed like 6+, it's meant for 6 years old, then no beeps, just L is. But people try to reduce it on TV anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vasant, please.
Yes, in Indian movies and TVs, they have some censorships. Especially for movies, they have censor board who put beep sound when there are profanity. But in TVs, they do themselves. The TV production team, they do themselves. And nowadays, after the digital media arised, we have a separate channel for such profanity. They have a lot of comical elements along with profanity. So some adults prefer to watch that. So I think it gives us the freedom to choose between the profanity and non-profanity. I like this way once the digital media developed.
Yeah, once I read an interesting article, and it says, that this profanity and this rude words usually works only for native speakers. And I thought about that a lot. I know some rude words in English and in Spanish, and I can use them, and they don't like provoke any feelings in me. Just words as words, yeah. But for a native speaker, it could be like, wow, extremely unpleasant, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The same in Russian. When I hear someone swearing, I think, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago, Holly had me with ninth grade students. It was a live class, and I asked them a question about the profanity in the story they were reading, and they said, it's normal. They said like that it's normal in here, like, and they were very curious about learning uh, a word, a curse word from my language. Like, say something, say something. I was like, no, everybody is around me. I cannot say that. I said, cultural differences are really interesting sometimes.
Yeah. But I think that in general, all the languages they like became less strict about this rule. So it goes from a strict taboo to something less like how to say it, less strict. How to say it actually? Something um, that you could use more or less. Yeah. So it's
Softer profanity,
yes,
maybe.
softer. But yeah. So 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it was definitely different. You couldn't use half of this word like darn, dumb, yes, or some swearing. But nowadays, who cares?
I would say that English is a language rife in profanity words, a lot of them. For instance, you go to French, there are a few insults. Then, like in English, you have extensive list of insults. Only synonyms of the word jerk, asshole, wang, many words to say the same.
Yeah, yes, I think it's because of so many people were trying to learn English because English is not their native language, and they started to experiment with the language. They tried to imply the bad word by saying something else, like no, okay, I cannot say that because it might be a profanity. Yeah, there are a lot of different words we use for the actual bird word. So I think it came because of the experimenting with non-native, experimenting by the non-native English speakers.
Yeah, long time ago, profanity was a certain taboo in Russia. I mean, long time ago, like a few centuries. But we had one Tsar, Tsar is like a king, who liked to use it. It was Piotr First, and it has a written document when he used like for 20 minutes only profanity words, and it's all written. So in Russian we like that, we like impose it at all, and we have a lot of words for that, not just F word or something else. No, we have like you can write a dictionary about this. Yeah, but I think English is pretty developed in this regard, and and I think it's because my impression is mostly because of Great Britain and Irish guys. I don't know if it's true or not. Okay, let's choose another question. Okay, it's a hard one. I don't know how to answer it by myself, but let's try. Please invent or provide some examples in which you can believe that grammar or a way of speaking would influence the way you act or think. Some examples like lady from TED Talk did, or like I try to show with this scientist, female or male. Well, can you think about something like this? It's a hard one, I think,
Hmm.
to get it from the top of the air.
Idioms might be one way. In baseball, we have strike one, strike two, strike three. So if you strike out, it means you fail. It could mean you failed 3 times, or maybe you just failed once. Depends on whether it's literal or figurative. When a man dates a woman for the first time, if they make love, that's called reaching first base in baseball lingo. So, did you reach first base? No, not this time, but I'm hoping next time I'll get to first base. So that might, that idioms are one way to
Yep.
bring a masculine or feminine way to look at something, maybe.
And there are a lot of jokes about that in series, in American series. Well, they always use it like, it's your 10 strike. 10 strike? How much strikes at all? Yes. Jokes like this.
Yeah.
And something curious in English that they use the feminine sex as like an insult, they say cunt, it's very strong word, or a cow or a pussy. I don't know, I don't understand this obsession. It doesn't happen in my language.
Yeah, but I just read an article recently that some adverbs, some adjectives, for instance, bossy, it implies female. Am I right, teacher? So if you're bossy,
Generally, yeah. A man can be bossy too, but we usually use it for women because they're not normally bosses.
yeah. So I saw a writing on T-shirts. I'm not bossy, I'm a boss. Something like this, yeah. Took some time to understand, yeah. And there was a list of such words. Let me see. I can.
So men are assertive instead of bossy.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And sounds nicer.
Yeah. One second. I know a few more words like bubbly or frumpy or high maintenance. They all supposedly to women, yeah.
Yeah, high maintenance.
High maintenance.
Yeah, if they like expensive clothes and jewelry and diamond rings and 20 pairs of shoes, we call them high maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about bubbly? Frumpy.
Bubbly is just like enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so much fun. Oh, I just enjoyed it so much. Just cheerful, very cheerful.
Those expressions are related to baseball, like the first base, reach first base, second base, I think they will lose sense, because women can do almost the same as men, the sexuality is almost equal. So at some point, these expressions we must admit that are male chauvinist, that like having sex with a woman is a male's achievement, but now it's going to disappear with the time, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Women don't have many sports. Women have volleyball.
Beach volleyball.
Yeah, and they wear bikinis, right? So it's insulting to me. If I was a woman, I'd be insulted. All we get is volleyball, and that's not even good enough. We got to wear bikinis to get people to watch us play volleyball,
Or tennis.
Okay, I forgot the name for the sport in English, but in Russia we have a sport for women, teacherly, and they have to do cross-country skiing and then shoot. It's very dangerous.
Skiing and shooting, wow. We don't have that.
It's an Olympic sport, I think, yes.
Yeah, it's a very popular. And they run for 15 kilometers and they shoot 6 targets in a row, So don't mess with such women. You know, it's
I've never seen that. Yeah.
okay. I'm going to post a bit about this in our chat. But I forgot the name for this. Gerard, do you remember?
I don't remember, but I know it's an Olympic sport for many years.
Yeah, and it's very popular there. So
But men also do that. I think men also do that.
yes, it's but it's interesting that sometimes women can compete with men. It's not so often, but in this sport they can.
No, that's good.
What you're talking about, I've only seen in movies about primitive tribes like Indians, American Indians, where they'll ride on a horse and they'll try to shoot a target while they're moving. But I've only seen that in movies. I've never seen that in real life over here.
Okay. It will be interesting topic for a post. I will do it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I know the name of this sport. Biathlon?
Biathlon, exactly. So
Biathlon.
it's B because it's two, right? Because it's shooting and running, you know. And it's very intense, and I would never try this. Not. It's not.
Wow.
Yeah. So guys, we run out of time, but I think we had a lot of fun. I will save chat and I will try to put this recording to the YouTube lately. And it was kind of improvisation, you know. I hope at the next week we will have more attendance. We should.
I hope so.
So please share your suggestions about sources to discuss and share your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.